Coming up, the great screen reader debate continues.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Priest.
Hey everybody, welcome along to another episode of Double Tap. I am Stephen Scott. He is Shaun Priest. And Shaun, how are you? How are you feeling? Are you all right?
I love your concern, Stephen Scott. And surprisingly enough, yes, I am not ill. And I'm standing on my own 2 feet. Thank you.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. I know, I am a hero. I do have a question because you say the debate continues. We have so many debates on here. Just remind me of the screen reader debate.
Oh, come on. Keep up, will you?
I can't. I've been ill.
You were ill.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah,
We're not going to start using this as an excuse every single time.
Yes,
Although
I am.
in saying that, I would probably do exactly the same thing. So you know what? I'm not going to criticize you for it. So look, as you say, we've talked a lot about screen readers and various angles of this particular story. But the one I was talking about was the whole subject around JAWS and NVDA. Remember, we had a chat about, why is NVDA not more prominent in the workplace? Why is it always JAWS?
Yeah.
So, needless to say, our inbox is filled up with thoughts.
Uh-oh. Are we in trouble?
Oh, yes.
Email. We get email. We get your email every day.
Ding dong!
Don't we just?
Here's your mail today.
Oosh, we're in trouble.
Oh, that was nice. That was
Did you like
actually
that one?
I like that one, yeah. Let's do more of that.
That was a bit Mario Brothers, that. I liked it. Or Pac-Man.
Captain Mannering was more of my thinking there. Look, we've had a lot of emails on this, and I've got to say, on various sides of this, I think we're going to get some interesting perspective. We're going to kick off with our good friend Greg in Pennsylvania, who, let's just say, wasn't even happy with me posing the question.
Uh-oh.
Hi, I would like to write a nice complimentary email, but I just listened to the latest episode before your vacation, which was very upsetting to me. First off, Stephen complained that he was only given the choice of a focus braille display. Then you get into screen readers with nary a mention of Dolphin doing exactly what you complained about. The reason NVDA is not widely used at most work settings is obvious, but seemingly escapes you. Security, security, security. Most companies and government employers are very security-minded, and open source software is a security risk that is easily avoided. All open source software was forbidden at every employer I ever had. No exceptions. None. Making NVDA subscription would completely destroy their reason to exist and would dry up their corporate funding, I believe. This was by far the worst episode you have ever produced. Have a good vacation. Greg in Pennsylvania.
The worst episode ever produced.
But have a good vacation. Thank you so much, Greg. And I will say, I'm sorry, you mentioned you were upset by it, and that's terrible. We never mean to upset anyone, so apologies for that. But look, I'm going to pick you up on something, Greg, because the security aspect of NVDA is something I think was a given. But I don't think that's no longer the case. I mean, NV Access themselves on the website, there's a corporate and enterprise section that goes into detail about the security aspect of, as you mentioned, open source. You can actually get a version of NVDA specifically designed for organizations focusing on security, taking away any concerns when it comes to both open source and the amount of access and even calling back home through the internet. So NVDA has addressed the security concerns, I believe, when it comes to employment. And I think they did that quite a while ago. So I don't think that's no longer an issue. Now, you could argue that hasn't been put across as well as Vispero with JAWS and other software. So, yeah, arguably there is still a concern there. But I will say, from a technical point of view, that is no longer the case, that because it's, this is just open source, who knows what sort of code's in there. That is no longer the case. There is an option for enterprise and governmental deployment of NVDA. NV Access have absolutely addressed this issue.
I'd also like to pick Greg up on the comment about it being the worst episode ever made. I think we have a lot of options there, to be perfectly honest, Greg. We could probably find something worse than that. I think. I mean, look, in all seriousness, I think it's an important question. And I think it's an important question because, as I mentioned during the episode, which you may have been too enraged by this point to hear this argument, but, at the end of the day, I have friends of mine and I've known people who've gone through the experience of having to get access to JAWS and struggling and not having any screen reader for 8 months. One example I cited at the time and during that episode, waiting 8 months to get access to any screen reader. Struggling with narrator was really the only option they had, or having to deal constantly with the 40-minute JAWS demo mode. Can I put it out there that perhaps Vispero could open that up? Could you at least do it where you could have a day at least, or a period of hours, say 5 hours, where you could use JAWS before it has to restart? Why 40-minute mode? That seems so odd to me.
Well, it's
something
inconvenient.
So fundamental, though.
Well,
fundamental to using a system like this.
No, it's kind of the point. Look, you got 40 minutes to try it out. Is this going to work on your system? Is this going to work for you?
No, hang on. How would anybody know if JAWS is right for them in 40 minutes?
Well,
have you ever used JAWS?
No, look, of course.
Anybody who uses it will tell you it is an absolute beast of a piece of software. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's got thousands of things in it. People use it for 20 years, don't even understand, barely touch the surface of it. And you're saying a 40-minute demo can tell you if it's right for you?
No, but then
absolutely not.
You reboot the computer and you start again. It's inconvenient. It's a bind, and it makes you think, I don't want to stay in this mode, which is exactly the point. It's a nag screen. It's
yes,
what trial software
but
is
hang on. This is Job Access for Windows, right?
Yes.
That's what the thing is. That's what the acronym stands for.
Yes.
So this is for workplaces. What on earth, what power do I have to go out and buy a license for this thing? It's not on me. It's on my IT team. If my IT team cannot come up with a license, I'm stuck in that 40-minute demo mode until, wait for it. Here's an example. 8 months.
Look,
8 months. You try that, and if you don't lose your mind, I don't know what is going on.
This is kind of at the core of the discussion that we had. It almost feels like there's some preconceptions here. There's some old-fashioned thinking. And who's this on? Is this on the IT departments of employers? Is this on the job access government departments out there? I don't know where this thinking is coming from. But the point is, you shouldn't have to wait 8 months for a license. You shouldn't have to deal with 40 minutes mode in employment. Of course not. But why do people have to deal with this?
Well, there's a whole range of reasons why that isn't. And by the way, that's nothing to do with Vispero. Got to say, that's nothing to do with Vispero. Not.
But what we're stuck in is this thinking, well, we can't use this software. We can only use this software because this acronym is, job access. That's old-fashioned thinking.
Well, it might be because of, Greg's thinking, to be perfectly honest, might be the thinking for many people out there who think that ultimately this is security based. The answer is security. It's, that's it. Simple as that. So therefore you can't use anything else. As Greg says, end of story. I don't think it is the end of the story. That's my point.
No, that is the point. It isn't the end of the story because, as I mentioned, it's kind of old-fashioned thinking. But why does that stay sort of hardwired into people's thinking when it comes to accessibility? It changes so much, right?
Well, there's someone who wants to try and debunk some of this, and that's Aaron Linson, who's got in touch with us, and he has a rather different viewpoint to Greg's.
Hi, Stephen, Shaun, Laura, and the fabulous Mr. F. First off, I'm terrible at remembering show titles. In one of your more recent shows, before you all went on vacation, there was talk about the validity of JAWS and the open source nature of NVDA. I wanted to say that open source software isn't always open source in the true meaning of the term. Yes, while anyone can write add-ons and contribute to NVDA's code, that code and every add-on is checked by the NV Access project team to validate the ethicalness and usability of the add-on. The outdated rhetoric that JAWS is used in the workplace needs to be shouted down from the rooftops, as this is no longer the case. Do you hear me, every VR agency out there? No longer the case. I worked as a recruiter for Amazon AWS, and unless you specifically asked for JAWS from your manager, NVDA was trusted within their system and free to download and use. Plus, Quentin from NVDA has told me directly that he has done talks around this topic. Plus, I believe NV Access has a page on the website about this very issue. NVDA is not a lesser screen reader, and in fact, it excels at a lot of different things, mainly when JAWS decides not to play well with a program or website. For me, as a digital accessibility project lead, NVDA performs a lot faster in the console of a browser than JAWS' sluggishness. Plus, when faced with an unlabeled user interface component, NVDA at least has the guts to tell me it's a clickable element. JAWS says any element it doesn't know is an unlabeled button, which may or may not be the case. This can lead to incorrect reporting because JAWS just assumes a user interface control that has no role is always a button, which is not a good assumption to make. There are many more user interface components other than buttons, such as combo boxes, checkboxes, radio buttons, etc. It would be nice if JAWS was intelligent enough not to assume the role of a user interface component unless it was able to dig into the code of the site itself and let me know using AI. However, we all know how trustful AI can be these days. I'd much rather have to dive into the HTML of the site and figure this out myself than have my screen reader give me its best guess. It's almost as bad as ChatGPT or any other LLM inserting fictional information and telling me that the information is correct. That's why I use NVDA on a daily basis for my work. Anyways, rant over. I hope the vacation from Mr. F's vacation from Stephen was delightful. Keep up the great work and addicting show as always. P.S. I vote for Dollop. Have a great day, guys.
Hey!
Thanks, Aaron Linson.
Aaron,
finally.
You were
sensible
doing
people
so
around here.
well. Just right to the end where you fell at the last hurdle. But thank you. Obviously, I agree. I do agree.
Well, that's kind of what you were saying, right? This is where you were going with it. Where,
I think this has
actually
been addressed.
NVDA have addressed this,
Yeah, I honestly do. And, when it comes to there's two main things, I didn't really go into security, and companies not wanting to run open source. I didn't really go into that, but I did go into the other aspect, which is support as well. People want to be able to get in contact with someone when they're having problems, and that was always put forward as well. Security and lack of support for NVDA. What do I do if it's not working? And those two issues have just been addressed, and I think are no longer concerns when it comes to using something like that in employment. The only thing I would say is that when it comes to the feature set of each one, JAWS versus NVDA, and as coming back to what Greg said, Dolphin as well. I mean, they tend to leapfrog and they tend to handle, like we talk about OSs, difference between Windows and Mac. They all have their pros and their limitations. So I don't really care about that so much. I just this rhetoric, as Aaron put it, is absolutely true. I just think we need to just almost refresh our thinking on what we can use in the workplace. I don't think it's no longer true that it's just JAWS.
And it's funny because after that episode aired and we finished recording it, I remember thinking, God, I didn't even mention Dolphin, and it's so true. I didn't even come to my mind, and it's strange. I don't know why it doesn't come top to mind at all, because I used it from a very early age. I mean, not every day, because to be honest, at that time for me, I saw it more as a magnification and screen reader solution rather than a single screen reader solution. Yeah. And obviously, it is both. I just don't have the knowledge. I've never really used it in any kind of way. I know it's very good. I know a lot of people talk about it. I'd love to hear more people talk about it. Get in touch, talk about it. Look. The interesting thing from Greg's email, and I get this from Greg quite a lot, is this sense of don't even talk about it. Don't even bring this thing up. Greg is a guy who will tell me religiously by email that, blind issues, blind challenges were, fought hard, issues that, broke through barriers that got to where we're at. It all starts by having a conversation. We've got to be honest about things. We've got to discuss these issues. We can't just hide away from it and say, let's not shake the tree, because we'll break things. Like, Greg mentioned about, NVDA becoming a subscription model was a ridiculous notion because it would kill it off. Would it? I mean, I'm asking the question. I'm not saying it should become. I'm asking a question. Please debate me on points. Don't debate me on just don't ask the question. That's not a debate. I want to have these conversations. I think they're important.
Well, the other conversation that we always have when it comes to, not just screen readers, but assistive technology in general is the price point, right? A subscription you may think is a terrible idea, but then it could be the difference between sustaining the NVDA project. But what's a reasonable subscription cost for it? £10 a month? $20 a month?
The problem is we only ever know that a subscription could save something when it's too late.
When it's about to... Yeah.
This
Get
is what
the
I mean.
plug
We
pulled.
need to be able to have a conversation. I'm getting a bit tired of this debate, and I hear it a lot. And it's more of a position rather than a debate, I suppose. It's a position in a debate, which is that we shouldn't charge blind people anything. I'm hearing this from a lot. I hear it from a lot of sighted people. Well, we didn't want to charge the blind people any money because, then they'll have to pay, and then they'll, blind people, they don't work, and that's not nice. And
It's just not a good look. Is that what you're saying?
not a good look. Yeah, and you're like, well, I just don't know if I go with that. Blind people have money to spend. Okay, like everybody else, there's challenges, and you've got to make choices. Like, when it comes to assistive tech, we can't buy every single thing that's out there. Of course not.
No.
But you do want to make a decision on something, and a $10 subscription a month to something that might save it from oblivion, that you use every day, that you love, would you pay it? I think I probably would find the money. I mean, a screen reader's fundamental to the use of a computer, right? So if you were to say, well, NVDA goes away unless you pay $10, I think a lot of people are going to scramble for $10.
Well, think about it. If there was an announcement tomorrow saying that due to lack of funding, the NVDA is being closed,
yeah,
what would happen? I mean, I think the whole community would rally round. We'd throw our hands in the air. It is slightly different in that the whole mission statement of NVDA, MV Access, is that, free universal access to a Windows computer. I mean, that's at its core. And once you come out of the gate saying that everyone should have access for free, it's slightly difficult to then go, well, actually, we need to put a subscription or a cost or a price on this. But I think it's completely understandable. We all know the financial pressures on,
Yeah, you know what? I think we need to grow up around that. I think we've got to grow up around that.
Yeah, you can't grow up.
I've heard this so many times. No, but I've heard this so many times. I hear companies say this a lot. I think about services that I use every day that I really rely on. Be My Eyes being one of them. And this mission that is same with Be My Eyes, with NVDA, there's a mission to keep it free. I'm all for that. But if the only alternative is for it to go away completely because the funding dries up, then I want to pay.
Yeah, I want
the option. I want the option. I don't want you to say, well, I don't want to charge you. I mean, I'd love to keep this service going by charging you $10 a month, but I don't want to charge you any money, so it's dead. Well, what would that be to live in? I mean, that's, it's the exact opposite of where we're at with capitalism, right?
No, I get it, but I can understand.
No, Starbucks don't just give out free coffee to blind people. You get charged. You want a coffee? You buy one.
Well, they should.
No, they shouldn't. I don't want free coffee from Starbucks, and why should I get it? That's my point.
Oh, I don't like coffee. Hot chocolate. Yeah, okay, calm down. I was just making the point why NV Access may be hesitant to even look down that avenue. But, I mean, I think...
Well, they may not need to at the moment. But my point is...
It could be perfectly fine.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is that it gets to a point where if there is an issue with funding... And look, let's be honest. Look at the bigger picture at the moment. Governments, and especially in the US, there's a lot of concern around where things are going, where government funding will go.
Wow.
Look, I mean, you got to be realistic here. We can sit and bury our head in the sand and say, I'll be fine. Blind people will always be looked after. Nonsense. And I think on this, Greg would agree with me, right? We can't just rest on our laurels. We can't just sit back and wait for, we'll all be saved by the lovely sighted people who'll just figure it out. I don't think that's the way we are. And we certainly don't want to live that life. I don't want to live in that world anymore. I'm sick of that approach. I think I've been too exposed to the world outside of where I live in the UK to see, actually, yeah, we do need to be empowered by ourselves. We need to take charge by ourselves. This is one way we can do it. I'm not suggesting NVDA launch a subscription service tomorrow. That's not my suggestion. But what I'm saying is if the alternative is it goes away, then please give us the option.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. No.
Let's go to Dan, who wants to chime in on this.
Thanks for raising the issue of third-party screen readers on your most recent episode. I often wonder why Microsoft and Apple took such different approaches. When Windows screen readers came on the market, I wasn't using them. I didn't need them to do my job as a mainframe programmer. By the time my employer migrated to Windows, JAWS was the dominant screen reader, and I asked for it because it had Braille support. I did pay for and take Windows Eyes training on my own personal time to see if it was something that interested me. I decided I didn't have enough use case to buy it. I hesitated at using Narrator because of the issues with conflicts between their Braille driver and the Braille drivers for other screen readers. JAWS and NVDA meet my needs, though I find Narrator unnecessary. The main issue I ran into with JAWS when I was employed is the fact that I didn't have much admin rights on my computer to update JAWS. Sometimes applications wouldn't work well because I needed to fill out a ticket to get someone to update JAWS. As Windows developed, things got refragmented. I wanted to use touch gestures like I do on my phone, but found there aren't uniform gestures used by screen readers and Windows itself. Every time I tried exploring the screen by touch, the mouse pointer would move and something would happen. I found it difficult to explain to sighted people why there are multiple screen readers. I don't know why Microsoft chose not to implement screen reader accessibility into the operating system. I think Windows would be more accessible if they had taken a more hands-on approach. This may have interfered with software developers who were developing their own applications, but the benefit would have been that many blind people would have been able to use Windows without the additional cost of purchasing a screen reader, training, and technical support from a third-party vendor. Getting an iPhone was revolutionary. For the first time, I could set up a phone with minimal sighted assistance and use most of the phone's features. I found that sighted people intuitively understood what I was doing with VoiceOver when I showed them how I turned it on and used it. I invited people to experiment with VoiceOver on their own phones, and they were amazed at what it could do. They were even more amazed when they saw me use a phone with a braille display. Sighted people are fascinated when they see me explore the screen by touch and get the same spatial information they do. I never could get my co-workers to understand how a blind person uses the internet with Windows, but they did understand when they saw me explore a web page using Safari on my phone. I think it is often easier to set up an iPhone than a Windows computer. Accessibility is baked into the iOS operating system, and data and applications are tied to a user account. If I update or get a new phone, I don't need to worry about losing data and applications like I do when I get a new Windows computer. There is the disadvantage of the iOS operating system upgrade, breaking accessibility, but Windows and Windows screen reader updates also break accessibility. I don't have any experience with the Mac, so I can't comment about it. I also wonder if things would be better if mainstream companies would develop hardware like braille displays. Current braille displays are not affordable for many blind people. Displays like the Monarch, which display text and graphics, are out of reach for most blind people. It seems cruel when organisations like APH make claims that the Monarch opens up opportunities for the blind when most blind people can't get it. It feels like putting food in the front of a dog and then taking it away when they try eating it. Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting points in there. Going into the nuances of different screen readers, I've got to say, I don't have the knowledge that you guys have around, how these things work. I just use them. But, it always interests me the way, because I know friends of mine will get in touch and say, oh, it's because of this, or the way that it behaves is because of, it's using this particular model of interaction, and I don't know any of it means. It just it's like, okay, cool, but
this accessibility API rather than this one.
Does that mean that I just use NVDA for this and JAWS for that and Narrator for the other? And yeah, I mean, the one benefit the PC has over all of them is choice. You have 3 screen readers available to you at any time. Of course, not everyone can use 3 screen readers. That's another thing you got to consider, even though there's more parity between them. And actually, parity is an important word here. I want to bring this up because I think in this debate, what can get lost is that I'm not sitting here advocating everyone at work uses NVDA. That's not what this is about.
No.
It's about parity and about being able to say, well, there's a choice between. I'd even say, I'd go so far to say today, maybe I wouldn't have said this 10 years ago, that Narrator, was a good choice, but it wasn't a good choice back then. It's a better choice now. People tend not to turn it on. And sometimes when I do turn it on and use it, and I do actually more often than not, I find it actually pretty good. I enjoy using it, especially around the Windows system.
It is. I've got a few laptops that I've set up out of the box, and I've used Narrator, but before I go to download my other screen reader of choice.
Yes.
And on a few occasions, it's been there, a week or two afterwards. It's just, oh yeah, I should actually get that screen reader because it's fine.
I think
what you want to do.
The problem is the knowledge of how it works. I think that's what it is. So, like even when I'm with NVDA, there are times where I'll go, oh, I want to do this. Oh, hang on, no, it's JAWS does that, right? Wait a minute, I need to switch to JAWS because I could probably do it in NVDA. It's just that I don't know how to do it in NVDA.
Well, how many times does that actually happen? How long I've been using a screen reader for decades now, and still, tab and arrow keys.
Yeah, I know you say this, but look, I think about the layers of JAWS, the way you go into the insert space,
the layer menu. Yeah,
I use that stuff all the time.
For what?
I use it for volume, I use it for OCR, I use it for lots of different things. It's great, and
Volume
being
is
able to
different.
quickly do that. Of course, then I've got Lisi attached to that, which is also adding a whole new layer of things. So there's lots of elements to JAWS that I've just learned over the years, lots of little tricks, little things, little specific things that JAWS does that I go, this is great in Outlook, this is great in here.
Isn't that just keyboard muscle memory?
It is. But the point is, if I don't know what the alternative is in NVDA, I'm going to struggle, right? So I'm just going to go, forget NVDA, I'll just use JAWS. So my point is that, not everyone could learn them all the time. You can't learn everything about every screen reader.
True.
I certainly don't have the brain for that.
Yeah. No, I'll give you that. Okay. Well done.
But it's an interesting...
You don't have the brain. Yeah.
I absolutely don't. I know. I don't have a brain. If I went for a brain scan, there'd be nothing there. Just be a hollowed out shell with Amazon boxes in the corner. That's all there is. Right, listen, let's go to Wesley, who wants to talk about this. And again, it ties into this topic.
Hello, Double Tappers. I've been noticing something lately and it's nagging at me, so I thought I'd bring it up here. I often see technology tools being dubbed as inferior or basic, even though that may not necessarily be the case. Two prime examples I have in mind are NVDA and Audacity. Both are excellent programs, and I think they're not given enough credit. Let's start with NVDA. It's a free, open source screen reader that many thousands of users enjoy. But I've heard many users of that other screen reader discount it as not having enough functionality or being too basic for their needs. I think sometimes they might not realise the full extent of the feature set NVDA offers today. It has come a long way since its first release. Plus, it has some advantages that JAWS doesn't. For example, the add-on store, the ability to turn your speech mode to beeps, better Braille access, which is subjective obviously, and of course, the most important one, it's free. Another example is Audacity. I produce a full podcast with music, interviews, and voiceovers, etc., with only Audacity, and I'm extremely happy with the setup. You can install plugins for added functionality, code your own macros, schedule recording, and more, and it's not crashing for me anymore, by the way. But one thing I have to say on a slightly related note, thank you, Shaun. Thanks to your Audacity tutorial on the Blind Podmaker podcast, I got started using this tool. Without this tutorial, it is extremely likely that I would not be narrating audiobooks, producing podcasts, removing background noise of tracks for family and friends. I must say, I'm indebted to you. I remember the aha moment when I first discovered multitrack, and now I simply could not do without it. I appreciate all the Double Tap team's work so much. Thanks, Wesley.
Oh, thank you so much, Wesley, and you're welcome. Yeah, the aha moment, there's nothing like it, is there? When you finally... I get it now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You're welcome.
I've got to say that demo or that review you did of Audacity lives on in infamy.
Yes.
The amount of people who are fascinated by it. And it's understandable why, though, because, you were talking about it from your perspective. You were going into this from the blind perspective. It's so important that we get that. And that's what people are getting from it. They're understanding the layout. You've got a fantastic ability to do this stuff. So,
Stop it.
No, please, I'll finish my thought. But honestly, no, it was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And I think I don't know what that podcast is that appeared on. That's where that showed up. Podcatcher or something, is it?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, you're welcome.
Well, there you go. Someone's clearly taken it. Had some fun with it. There you go.
NVDA, the add-on store. Now, you mentioned that as a positive, but that's also could be seen as a negative when it comes to deployment in employment. That rhymes. Because that, again, could be seen as another security flaw, right? A vector of attack is the third-party add-ons. But again, NV Access have addressed this, and you can run it without the option for third-party add-ons or even the add-on store or manager. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't disagree with anything you said there, Wesley.
Yeah, very, very interesting stuff. Look, thank you for your emails on this. I'm sure we'll get more, and we will continue the conversation as long as we wish, because that's what we do here at Double Tap. But stick around. We're going to be getting into some other stuff and some demos from one of our listeners, James. He's up next with a rather interesting double demo.
This is Double Tap. We'll be right back.
Double Tap thanks Pneuma Solutions for supporting this podcast and for championing the belief that access to information is a right, not a privilege. From the classroom to the workplace, Pneuma is transforming how organizations deliver accessible content, empowering blind and print-disabled people to engage fully, independently, and securely. Whether it's providing remote tech support through Remote Incident Manager, turning inaccessible files into readable ones with Scribe, or making virtual meetings inclusive with Scribe for Meetings, Pneuma's cloud-based tools are paving the way for a more inclusive digital world. Their work isn't just innovative, it's essential. And to celebrate our partnership, they're giving away 10 Remote Incident Manager and 10 Scribe for Document subscriptions exclusively to the Double Tap community. You can sign up at doubletaponair.com/subscribe for your chance to win and stay up to date with everything we're working on.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
Well, let's get back into the emails, and I want to play in this voice message from James, who wants to share with us his double demo.
This was recorded with my Moto G54, which is in fact running Android 15.
Hello, all you double tapping people. This is James from Missouri, and I'm here with a couple of really quick demos of two things that go in the who knew category. Haven't heard anything from this for a little bit, so I thought I'd add a couple things. I can't take credit for either one of these. This first one I found out about from an AppleViz podcast sometime back, and the next one, my friend that taught me the Mac way back when showed me this one. So the first one will be with the iPhone, the second one will be with the Mac. So if you want to check for app updates, you might open the App Store and find it through that way. But a quicker way to do it is to go
App Store, 5 updates available.
And you can either triple tap or double tap and hold. I prefer triple tap. And that brings up a menu.
Remove app button.
And under here we have a couple things. I'm going to show you 2 of them.
Updates button.
So in this menu you have an updates button. If you hit it,
App Store, account, heading.
Now you're right at your updates screen.
Update all, 5 button.
And remember, if you want it to refresh, stay toward the top here and flick down with 3 fingers.
Page 1 of 10, or page 1 of 11.
It should have said refreshing content, but I flicked down once and it said page 1 of whatever. So that tells you that you need to do it again. And so now,
Update all, 8 button.
we have 3 more that we didn't have before. All right, we're not going to update these right now. We're going to go back to the home
Apple
screen.
Apps full dock, App Store, 8 update.
Triple tap
Remove
again.
app button.
We're back in this menu. Now the thing that I think is really cool
Search button.
is you have your search button in this menu. And what happens when you do this?
App Store, search field, is editing, games, apps, and more. Word mode, insertion point at start.
So there you go. It pops you right into the search field with the keyboard up, ready for you to type.
Apple speech off.
So now we switch to the Mac. And for this one, we're going to go to the Apple menu with caps lock M.
Apple menu. Finder menu. Apple. About system apps. Recent force quit sleep. Restart ellipsis.
Okay, so it says restart ellipsis. If I just hit enter.
Authentication. Restart system dialog. Are you sure you want to restart your computer now? If you do nothing, the computer will restart automatically in 1 minute. Reopen Windows when logging back in. Checked. Checkbox. Are you sure you...
Okay, so you get a few things here.
Finder.
That's good. But what if you think, gee, I just want to restart it. I don't want all this other stuff. I just want to restart it. So if you go back to the Apple menu.
Apple menu. Shutdown. Restart ellipsis.
Now, I'm going to hold down the Option key, and it says Restart Ellipsis. So if you hold down the Option key for a second, it will change to
Restart.
And if you
Restart Ellipsis.
Let go of Option, it goes back to Restart Ellipsis. Now, if you keep Option held down and then just hit Enter or Return, as the Mac calls it, it will skip that and restart. You can do the same thing with Shutdown as well. There might be other dialogues that you can bypass with this trick, but I don't know what they are. So that's that. And hope everybody is doing good and staying cool.
Oh, well, staying cool now, yeah, because the heat's gone from the UK, so we don't have any heat at all here now. So,
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. I'm applauding that, sir. That was great. And
Yeah.
how
isn't it?
many times? I always forget about that context menu. That triple tap or the double tap and hold to bring up extra options.
Did
And
not know
it's-
it was there.
It is so useful. Well, since iOS 18, you've also got the ability to lock apps, hide apps and things like that. But it's talked about muscle memory before with keyboard shortcuts. It's exactly the same. I always forget about it. And that App Store, get into the updates. I always swipe up to the heading of my account, and it's just a bit of a bind and search as well. Go into that tab and then get into the search field. This is perfect, and I always forget about it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is the who knew.
Absolutely. That's the perfect who knew segment. That was great. And that option key as well. The option key, when you activate an item in the Mac, having different effects. It's almost like a hidden feature, that. And I don't understand why it isn't announced more in the voiceover hints and tips, toolbar tips as it's known on Windows. Hold down the option key to directly access restart or whatever it may say. But there's so many different options when you hold down the option button. It's fantastic. Thank you.
I mean, it's one of the best things about the Mac, actually, is that menu system that's on the top of the screen. It's always been there, and every single app has everything in there. Well, look, I mean, people that say to me, "Oh, using Microsoft, any Microsoft application is generally horrible on the Mac." But you can get round the ribbons, for example, by using the menu. You don't have to use the ribbon menu. You've already got it all in the Apple menu.
I will
And
say,
that's
it feels like 20 years, 30 years we've been trying to get our heads around the ribbon tab. And look, I will say this. Of course, there's ways around it, and the screen readers have tried to make this more accessible, and there's keyboard shortcuts. It's still awful. The ribbon is still an awful navigation experience. I'm sorry, it just is. The menu bar
someone
is
thought, let's
always
build
king.
a maze. And you got to go left, right, up, down, back, forward, all the rest of it.
Do I hit enter on this bit, or do I just arrow down, or do I tap? It's
make
just
a list. Lists.
It's awful. The menu bar is always king. I will give you that.
Does it even look good? I wonder what sighted people think about it, because it doesn't even feel. I mean, it seems so awkward to navigate. You feel like, because it's that thing when you're in the ribbon and you're saying, "Hang on, do I go right here? Do I tab here? If I tab, do I end up somewhere else?
Yes,
Have I
and
lost?
you always-
I'm out of the menu again. I've fallen out."
Always make the wrong choice
game.
as well.
People ask me, do I play audio games? Yes, I use Microsoft Word. I play that game every day. I try to find the, turn off reading pane in Outlook. That's always fun.
Well, you say this, Stephen Scott. I was using a MacBook Air last night.
Oh.
Yes.
You bought one?
No. I dug one out from, it was actually behind the settee. Times are hard in the Priest household, and we've gone eBay crazy. So
I see.
We're selling things. And I had to reset a MacBook Air. And I went back in there. That was fun for not having using a Mac in a long time. How slow is the menu bar going through that file, the Apple menu, the very first one, and then trying to get to the menu extra bar? I mean, that's not very consistent. Now, admittedly, this is a mid-2012 MacBook Air, but still, it's running high. Is it High Sierra? Something like that.
So it's, hang on, how many years is that? 15 years?
Only if it's 2027.
13
It's
years.
13 years old.
13 years. Told you I'm not good at math. 13 years old, and you're complaining. But by the way, it hasn't been switched on in probably the same amount of time.
I gotta say though, plugged it in, turned it on, booted it up, and it worked. I will give it that. It was very nice. Still got the box.
You know why that is though, right? Because you can't install beyond a certain operating system. It knows its limits.
Yeah.
It's built in. It's got these built-in limits to it. So you could open up, as I have actually, my dad's old iMac that I had upstairs. I was wanting to rip a CD and I couldn't think of a way to do it. And my dad's old iMac has a CD drive still in it. I thought, I'll just use this. You know what? It was actually, okay, it's slow. You can feel the slowness, but it's responsive. It works. And if you just slow down your thinking,
you can't have slow but responsive.
Well, but slow is not non-responsive.
juxtaposition,
Non-responsive
Stephen
is just
Scott.
sitting there. Whereas, this thing was responding, just not as quickly as perhaps you would like. It's like having the, shocks open fit earbuds in, big lag.
Yeah, I got to say, though, the 11-inch MacBook Air is still an amazing form factor.
I've got mine somewhere. The only thing is, I love it, and I really do love it, but it's just unusable now. It is just unusable.
It is, yeah.
And it's because of that. I mean, Intel, I blame Intel for everything.
Oh, well done.
I think
Why?
whatever problem you can think of, did you spill coffee down yourself this morning? I blame Intel.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. Because honestly, those machines would be great if they didn't have Intel in them. Because honestly, it's just like you switch it on and then the fans are going crazy. It's trying to cool itself down. It isn't even turned on.
All right.
And it's boiling hot already. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you're getting annoyed already. It's on computers you're not even using. It's fine.
But
Leave
it
it alone.
on your behalf. But the thing is, you pick up, say, an M1 MacBook Air from 2020, one of the first ones with the Apple Silicon in it, and it's gorgeous. Still perfectly good.
Okay.
Never an issue.
All right. Okay.
Which says it all, frankly. If you had M1 all the way through, or AMD or something else in there, I think that machine that you've got there would actually still be be more useful than it is currently. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's all Intel's fault.
I heard that Microsoft have started to offer the new Surface tablets with Intel. They have actually...
egg cookers.
They've moved away from... Not necessarily. I love my Surface. Have I said that? That is the best laptop I've ever owned.
It's probably the best PC laptop, yeah, because
it's amazing.
Overall, it's got, the speakers in it are great. Generally, PC laptop speakers are dreadful.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing.
From a tablet, it's brilliant. I don't like the design of that. I like the laptop design, but I don't like the
Never used the
Pro
Surface
design.
laptop, just the Surface Pro.
Not much difference, I suppose. Certainly in experience, not much, but just in the way that you don't have that horrible kickstand, stupid idea.
Kickstand is great.
And
the keyboard is
floppy
amazing.
Keyboards. Don't like floppy keyboards. Don't like
forget it.
kickstands. Didn't like
You
it.
don't know what you're talking about.
I don't pretend to know what I'm talking about. Have you ever heard this show?
I don't understand. Let's go back to the App Store. It was that James, wasn't it?
Yes.
The App Store updates. I don't understand the update process because I do exactly what you did there, James, right? I go to the updates and it'll say 3 updates, install all or whatever. And I refresh, 3-finger swipe down as you did. And then it'll say 27 updates. Oh, okay, cool. Update all. And then I'll go back, a day or 2 days later, and the update is still there, even though I've checked, as I did it 2 days previous and made sure everything was installed. And it will say, available 2 days ago, this update now. It's like it doesn't install some of the updates, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. I do not understand that. And my other pet hate is the Copilot app for the last, I don't even know how many updates, for the update information, exactly the same. Exactly the same. Same with Netflix. It never tells you anything it's done. It's just a cut and paste of whatever the update
Bug
notes
fixes.
have been. Yeah, bug fixes and maintenance. Great. Give us some actual information in there. Awful experience. Sorry.
Well, you feel better after getting that off your chest?
I do
Good.
feel better.
Okay.
Thanks, James.
I want to move on because Scout has been in touch. Now, you might remember we had the conversation around, I don't know if it's the right word or phrase. I know it depends on where you live in the world, but workshops for blind people was a topic that I brought up a while ago. And I don't think it came up by me, but I certainly reacted, I think, to something I'd read about it or heard about it. Because I often wonder, is this something that would be good? I remember, actually, now I'm saying this, I think it was one of our listeners in Africa, but forgive me, I can't remember who or where you were, but I remember you were talking about it. I think you were in Kenya, if I remember rightly, and you were talking about the sheltered workshops that still exist there. And I talked about my experience, or not my personal experience, but my experience of being in these places where, people really felt dismayed when they learned that those sheltered workshops were going away. For some for good reason, but others for financial reasons. And the idea of, inclusion is better. So we just have everyone working in the same place or working in the same environment. Anyway, I mentioned this because Scout got back in touch following that, and he wanted to share his thoughts.
So, my first foray into work was with the Dallas Lighthouse for the Blind in the late 90s. We made the display binders for things like diplomas and certificates, as well as markers, hand brooms, and dustpans. Everyone was paid piece rate and below minimum wage because all of our contracts were government funded, and thus we were paid a specific wage per item. Unfortunately, some of the hierarchy were embezzling and are now in prison, and yet the building, as of last year, was still open, under some new organisation and the same pay rate. My problems with this are that only a handful of people were happy to be working at all because they did not know any better and were not challenged to do more. I did not stay long, as I wanted more. This was not to say I did not appreciate the work or opportunity, far from it, but I generally expect more from my brothers and sisters in this community, whether English is your first language or not. Yes, I have been given so many opportunities being here in the States, but I also see the abilities we all possess. I am not saying there is no place for that type of work, but if the things produced are of value to the outside world, then they should be paid for to be made as though they are valuable. We deserve a living wage, just as much as the sightlings or sighted zombies. As for Braille, you make valid, cogent points, that there is not enough of it, and that is not the only tool, like Shaun said, tactile flooring. As a famous book says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. This is still so very true. Best regards, Scout. P.S. As for Linux, I am now using a variation of Ubuntu, specifically for our community, called Accessible Coconut.
Oh, that explains a couple of emails I've been getting that I thought were a joke. Right, okay.
Well, they were insulting you. You accessible coconut.
I wish I had as much hair as a coconut. I'd be quite happy, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, look, experience is everything in this, right? But also, I think what we would want going forward is to not replicate the mistakes of the past. And two common mistakes that I think have happened with the workshops in whatever country they've been in is low wage and the idea that that's the only place blind people can go to work. It's almost like, well, we've created a place for you to work. You just live there now. And every blind person's kind of ushered through, or every disabled person's ushered through. I don't think that's the right approach. You want a place where people, because there are people in our world, in our community, who despite our desire or wish for everyone to do better and do more, which I think is a very American view, if I'm honest, this idea of uplifting yourself and picking yourself up and getting on with it, that's great, but not everyone can. Not everyone can, not everyone is able to, not everyone is physically able or mentally able to do that. And therefore, I think you need choice in the workplace. But you're absolutely right. It cannot come at a cost, and that cost being low wage. If the work is valuable, and I said this at the time, if the work is valuable, it should be paid equally to any other business. If you're creating kitchen furniture, for example, it should be, as long as the product is on a par, it should be the same cost as it would cost for another kitchen company to make it.
Absolutely, of course. What if it's not valuable?
What are we talking about?
The actual product itself. If we're making brooms and I don't know, picture frames and dustpans and brushes, right? These aren't high value products, right? So there's never going to be a huge revenue from that. What is the aim of these places? Is it to give us confidence? Is it to give us experience of working in the workplace rather than, this anxiety of mixing with others, of being in unfamiliar places? Is it to give experience? Is it to give a living wage? What is the aim? And I hate this name as well, sheltered.
Well, call it what you want, but the point is somewhere for blind people or disabled people to go, it doesn't make a difference.
Of course it does. I'm not being put anywhere that they call sheltered. Yeah, it makes me feel like a feeble...
Right, okay, we already don't like that. We'll change it, right? Fine, whatever. Who cares, right? Call it your mum's house. I don't care, right? Call me late for dinner. I don't care. Call it whatever you want. But the point is a place where people can go, all the things you just said, a place where people can go, can get confident and work. Some people might go forward from that. Again, just look at the numbers, right? It's not working. We're not getting blind people into work. It's not happening.
Exactly.
So let's stop living in this world of, well, if we just get more employers to employ blind people, everything will be great. Well, it's not working, guys. Yeah, we've tried that. We've used that argument for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and ongoing years.
Is this the response back to when the dinosaurs were in employment? Is this the answer to that problem, though? As you mentioned,
I think it's a start.
Is this suddenly now...
Is anything else working?
No. Yeah, but is this the right avenue to go down? Does this suddenly become, as you pointed out yourself, then the mainstream employers look at this and say, well, you work there. This is for you. Why are you knocking on my door? Does it actually become an obstacle in the way?
I think that it's possible for two things to happen at once, right? I think it's possible, but I will tell you that the alternative option we have right now, which is what we're living through, is that we just live in this hope that employers will just wake up to the idea that one day, actually, you know what, having a disabled person around here will work out really well.
It's not going to happen.
No, it's not, because It never has. You know, limited numbers of people are getting a chance to get into the workplace. Now, I'm not suggesting that for everyone else that there should be a workshop for that. I'm not suggesting that. But we also have to acknowledge, and this is really important, and this is the hard stuff, right? This is the hard conversations that we like to have, but you have to have. And that is that there are many people in the blind community who have many mental health conditions who could not function in an environment where it's mainstream. It's just not going to happen. Where do those people go? Because I see value in them too. That's my point. I see value in those folks. I see the value in people who've got multiple disabilities. Some of them are visual, some of them are mental, some of them might be physical. They should have chance in the workplace too. This might give that person a chance to feel valued in themselves. But again, we have to do it the right way, because like you said,
but no one can agree what the right way is.
Well, not embezzling funds might be a start. Yes. Not abusing people might be a start. I mean, do I have to really write this list?
Is there actually a good example of these places? Because the only ones I ever hear about are where people have been taken advantage of. But then again, if we're looking at this as this is actual employment, this is a living wage that we're looking for, then I don't know. I think we're setting up more problems for ourselves. If we're looking at this, hey, this is somewhere you can work for at the most 6 months, and it gives you that experience. It wasn't until I started volunteering that I decided, you know what, I've got a reason to get out of bed in the morning. Mm-hmm. I actually feel like I could do something, because for the years and years, it was like, what's the point? I've got nothing to do, another day of doing nothing.
But why was that? Why was that? Because you didn't have, I would guess, the opportunities.
I didn't. I gave up. No, I gave up.
But if you were going for a job, I mean, the only option would be mainstream jobs, right? So were you given the chance in those jobs? I guess not.
No, when I first left college, I so many interviews and I just never heard anything back. Now, of course, there's that option if you just keep going. Every time you get that rejection, you just keep going. And that's very true and, well done. I gave up. After about a year, I just gave up. I couldn't get a job.
And you're not alone, I'm sure.
But that's the thing, though. But what do you do with that? If I throw my hands in the air and say, I give up, that's it. This is my life, just every day the same. How do you reach those people anyway? I mean, I don't know what the answer is.
This is the point, I think. That there needs to be something in the middle. And, like you said, volunteering. Now, look, I'm all for volunteering. I'm not against volunteering. Please, God, stop emailing me saying I'm against volunteering. I'm not. People only hear what they want to hear. But honestly, I'm not against volunteering. I love volunteering. I think it's fantastic. I've said before, I did a show for 9.5 years with volunteers coming in freezing cold days, on horrible days.
Also
having to deal with me, for God's sake. They had to deal with me.
Awful. Right.
And they still came every day. And, they were amazing people. They did it because of the love, the passion, what they wanted to do. And they did it for their own self-worth. But there has to be something beyond that, because it can't just be that we all volunteer. That we have to have some value and to build confidence, to build skills. Look, we're sitting here going on about, as we have done, blind leadership, right? You're never going to have blind leadership if people can't get into the positions because they can't get the job to get the experience. We're just going to end up going around in circles again. This is where we end up.
Yeah. It's not an easy answer. It's a very difficult question. But my feeling on it is that it wasn't until I actually started to say, you know what, I'm going to try and do something, that I realized it's not as bad as I thought. I can cope with people. I can cope with unfamiliar. Do you know what I mean? It's like most things. Is until you try something, then you sort of catastrophize it in your head. I couldn't possibly get there. I can't commute. I couldn't do this.
But you know what I'm talking about, Shaun. You know who I'm talking about when I say there are people out there who just can't do that.
Yeah,
that's not
absolutely.
In their makeup.
Yep. But right? I was one of those
people,
is what I'm saying. For years, I was one of those people.
No, that's not what I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people with mental health conditions.
Oh, I see.
Or perhaps additional disabilities that will make it very challenging for them to get on in a mainstream environment.
I will give you that.
That's where we need to think, where can those people work? Because they should be able to work. And I'm sick of governments going on about, get back to work and get into work and work is great for you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but you're giving no opportunity. You're giving no mind to the people and who they are, what they need, what, resources might be required. I mean, on one hand, in the UK, they go on about, get everyone back to work. We'll slash your benefits if you don't. Okay, all right, can I get back to work? Can I get access to work, please? No, we're scrapping that too, or we're cutting it down.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Every turn. Get back to work. Okay, can you help me? No.
Yeah.
Okay, but they won't employ me without. Well, tough. Well, you're not getting on benefits because you can't get any. What did we do?
Mm-hmm.
How did we get to this stage? How did we end up in this world? What kind of state are we in when this is where we're at?
This
It's
is where
just
the
disgusting.
disability organizations have to step in, though, and offer something there. And again,
Yeah, stop going on about alt text and actually deal with some important stuff. If I see one more post about alt text, I swear to God, I am sick of it. I'm ready to throw X out of the window.
As you should.
Listen, we're out of time. I could go on for another hour, but honestly, just some of this stuff just drives me mad.
Relax.
But this is why we need to have these conversations. They're not easy conversations. They're not nice conversations. But you know what? We've got to have them because we're never going to move this forward by just saying, well, all sighted people have to do is just do better. That's another phrase I see all the time. Do better. Doesn't mean anything. Means nothing. You know why? Because it never has. That's the truth of it. It never has. Because if it had, if there was any truth to it, it would be better. But it's not. It's not like do better came around last week and everyone thought, that's not a bad idea, and let's do that. Everyone's just like, you know what? We'll just keep doing what we always do. I'm not pointing a blind person. Nothing's
I don't know
changing.
what the answer is, but
Got to start somewhere. Anyway, we're out of time today. Thank you as always. Thanks to AMI for letting me do this. And we'll catch you again for another Double Tap tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.